When it comes to the doctrine of the end times, it's almost more important to know what not to read than what to read. That might be a bit of an overstatement, but it's really important to know what not to read to get your theology of the end times. And the first rule of thumb is don't read anything that's fiction, right? So don't go to the end times, what is it, Left Behind series, Tim LaHaye, Jerry Jenkins, to get your doctrine of the end times. It is written in a fictional form. It's highly sensationalized, not the best source for theology. I would also say don't go to books that were written at a particular time that were meant to appeal to the masses based on whatever was happening in the culture at that time. Think about Hal Lindsey and the late great Planet Earth. He was writing for a particular audience at a particular time. There's a reason that book sold like hotcakes in the 70s, and I would just encourage you actually to go to books that are more theologically driven and rooted to the biblical text. And I would say that's true no matter what position they represent. Make sure that they are going back to the text of Scripture and that they are really dealing with things with careful exegesis, careful handling of the text. I would say that the first place to go, because this is an area where there are so many views and it can be hard to sort them out. This book in the Zondervan Counterpoint series called the Millennium and Beyond represents the three millennial positions: premillennialism, postmillennialism, and amillennialism. Each view gets one chapter, and then the other two authors get to respond to that chapter. And so with each position, you get to hear the positive presentation of it, and then you get to hear the authors that represent the other views respond to that view. And it's just a very helpful format, written in a very charitable, respectful way to one another, in a way that I think helps you kind of sort out the pros and cons of each view. So 3 views in the Millennium and Beyond in the Zondervan Counterpoint series. Another similar book written by Millard Erickson is called Contemporary Options in Eschatology. Very kind of nonpartisan book. He's not trying to push a particular view. He's just saying, here's what premillennialists believe, here's what amillennialists believe, here's what postmillennialists believe, here's what pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib believe. And he tries to give you a helpful summary just to help you get a handle on what each of the positions are. Unfortunately, when you have someone who's defending a position, sometimes they don't portray the other positions in the most favorable light, and so a book like that can be very helpful to you. So now getting into each of the millennial views. So again, I mentioned earlier, don't go to fiction. The Tim LaHaye series is representing a dispensational premillennial view. I would say most dispensationalists I know actually would not think that those books are the best way to learn that position. Probably a better way to do it is a book like Charles Ryrie's Basic Theology. He's got a pretty long section on the end times as a part of this. Ryrie is a very good and respected representative of that viewpoint. And so Basic Theology by Charles Ryrie, and the end of this book is dealing with the doctrine of the last things from a dispensational premillennial viewpoint. 2 books I would suggest for a historic premill position. George Eldon Ladd, The Presence of the Future, is a very good, probably the one of the best representatives of the historic premill position. And then also this book called A Case for Historic Premillennialism it's really edited by Craig Blomberg, includes a lot of the faculty of Denver Seminary, and both of these books are laying out the historic premill position and do a very good job with that. And then for the amill position, perhaps the best book I've read representing this and giving a kind of a comprehensive view of the amill position and written in a very clear and accessible way is Kingdom Come by Sam Storms. Kingdom Come by Sam Storms. And then for the post-mill position, again, probably the best representation of that is this book called He Shall Have Dominion by Kenneth Gentry. This is a minority position in the evangelical world. But there are some, particularly in the Reformed community, who hold the post-mill position, and I would say Ken Gentry does a good job of laying that out and showing the biblical reasons that they arrive at that. So my goal with that is not to try to persuade you of one of those. My own view is the historic pre-mill position, but I think any of those books are going to give you a good representation of the views that they represent. And the most important thing is that you go to books that are rooted in Scripture and are doing good, solid exegesis, and not giving it to you in a sensationalized form. And so those are some books I would recommend that can be helpful with that. If you're not sure where you are, it's probably good to read one of those counterpoint books, just to help you see each of the views as they interact with one another. So again, I hope that's helpful to you. Again, you're welcome to borrow any of these books that you would find helpful for your own reading and growth.